This series about people who may look like you and I, but who somehow have got a recipe for success, something that they do that is beyond the norm. And I like to find that out. Before we start, just want to let you know, I hardly know these people. They have been selected because they have achieved something in the industry. And I just wanted to put the stress on both themselves and me. For them, it's a podcast. They don't know the direction I'm going to go. They don't know who's going to listen to, and they don't know whether they are going to deliver it right. But for me, it's the same. I don't know about them. Therefore, I have to dig. I have to really find that recipe, because champions sometimes do amazing things, but they don't even know the recipe to their success. By exploring what it is that makes them and maybe their own little secret for success, we can share with the rest of you and help you reach success faster. Enjoy. Hi, Piers. How you doing?
Hi.
So this is Piers Van Hamburg, and he runs DiJones in Neutral Bay.
I do,
so I'd like just to start the beginning, maybe ask you a little bit about your journey into real estate. And maybe up to here. There's many other things I'd really like to ask of you, because you seem to be an old and wise legend. So I don't want to know how you get your listing and all these things, because that's going to bore the crap out of a lot of people. So let's start with your journey. What got you into real estate?
Well, I've only really done two careers in my life.
Right.
One is real estate, and the other one is I've got a news background. So I actually left school and did a cadetship with Cumberland newspapers originally. Right. So I started with Cumberland, and it was really basic to learn all about newspapers and production and advertising and editorial and that sort of stuff. And my first job was running the car section on the Manly Daily down at Manly. I did that for a couple of years, and then from then on, I then went on and ran the real estate section for the Mossman Daily. This is before internet, so people didn't go searching on the web for property, because there was no such thing. It was basically the newspapers. So. So I was running the newspaper section, and I met the real estate agents through that job. And that's how I kind of fell into real estate, because they were my clients. And I remember going to a wedding when I was about 24, and I sat next to a guy called Gareth Axtons, who owned Rain and Horn at Neutral Bay. And I went to this wedding. Anyway, I ended up talking to Gareth for 2 hours of the whole wedding, and we just got on like a house on fire. And he said, Piers, you'd be a really good real estate agent. So I sort of started at Rain and Horn, Neutral Bay, at age 25 as an agent. And I remember the week that I turned up, Gareth was on holidays. So I turned up and I said, "Oh, where do I sit?" And they said, "Oh, well, we don't really have a seat for you. Go and sit in Gareth's desk. He's on holidays at the moment." And then I said, "Oh, what do I do? Like what?" And they said, "Well, I don't know. We didn't give you the job. Gareth gave you the job." And I said, "Well, give me some ideas of what I do." And they said, "Well, why don't you do this? Why don't you actually go over to the news agency, buy the Saturday Sydney Morning Herald, Section 5 of the Herald, which was the real estate section, go through all the listings in there, and call the private sales." So job number one, on day one of real estate, I went over there and I got the paper, I cut out all the private sales, and I soon learned that the people that were selling privately were selling it because they don't like real estate agents generally.
Yes.
So I'd ring them and say, "Hi, it's Piers calling from Rain and Horn. Look, just wondering, whether you consider selling your home. I'm a local real estate agent." Didn't know what I was doing anyway. So basically I think made about 10 calls. The first 9 calls were like, "Get lost. See you later." I won't use the exact words that you used. Anyway, so I got onto this one call. This is a true story, actually. One call was a lady called Marion Blinn. Now, Marion Blinn owned a townhouse in Fifth Avenue in Cremorne. And I rang her, and she said, she goes, "Well, actually, yes, I have got a 3-bedroom townhouse." And she said, "Look, if you've got some buyers for it, why don't you come out and have a look at it?" She said, "I'm not prepared to give you an exclusive on it." She says, "But if you've got a buyer, you're happy to introduce them to the property." She said, "It's $500,000 and it's non-negotiable." Okay. "Right, Mrs. Blinn, I'll come out and see you." So I jumped in the car, went out and saw her, no one ever taught me to fill in an agency agreement. So she actually filled it in for me, because I had no training on how to fill an agency agreement.
What a story.
So anyway, so I filled in the agency agreement, signed it up, $500,000, came back into the office, proud as punch, went up to one of the other agents and said, look, I got my first agency agreement day one. And the guy said to me, he says, it's a waste of time. That's not worth 500,000. That's worth 450. He said, it's not worth that. You know, she's never going to get that. That's a waste of time. And I felt a bit deflated by it anyway. So I put the file in the cupboard. Next day, I'm sitting in the office, an incoming phone call comes in, a guy called Mr. Ken Hall. I answer the phone, hello, Mr. Hall, how are you? And he's like, oh, Piers, you know, he says, I've just sold my house in such and such street in Mossman. And he says, look, I want to downsize. He said, I've got a budget of $500,000 and I need 3 bedrooms and I need this and that. And I said, I'm thinking he's actually describing exactly this property. So, Mr. Hall, can I come pick you up? So I drive around to Mossman, I pick him up, I take him around to Mrs. Blynn's house in 5th Avenue. Anyway, walks through the whole house. I'm just watching the whole thing, didn't know what to say. And he stands in the lounge room and he says, yep, I like it. I'll take this. And she says, I'm staying out of it at this stage. She says, well, it's $500,000, non-negotiable, and I'm not budging. This is the price. And he says, oh, well, that suits my needs and that's reasonable for me. Where do I sign? So I literally sat down with them and they signed the contract. I got the check and I went in day 2 with my signed contract and the check back into the office and said, you know, what do I do with this?
Did you show the same guy who said it's only worth 450?
Well,
did you show him the check?
I did. Yeah, I did. I did. Of course I did. But anyway, so my point is I actually got a sale on day 2 of real estate with no experience at all. Completely just being naive, not knowing what...
You're going too fast for me. You're going too fast for me. So first, I'm going to get to that first question afterwards, but did you then believe, hold on, am I made for this? Or do you believe there's a real estate god?
I think the real estate god was put on me, yeah. Because as you know and I know, it's never like that.
No.
So the fact that happened in the first 2 days, I think it was just a freak situation.
What a story.
But it did actually make me realise that, there's good money to be made in real estate if you want to work hard and you make your own luck, as you know.
Yeah.
So,
but here's the thing. Do you know how Ayrton Senna, and you can see in my room that we are around Ayrton Senna, he never been on the Monaco circuit.
Yeah.
He was called a few days before the race. Yeah. They needed a driver.
Yeah.
And he actually won the race almost because they stopped the race because the rain was too heavy. And even though he crossed the line first, the rules was we actually take the guy that was in the first position 1 lap prior to us stopping, and it was Alain Prost. So what I'm trying to say to you is that how you find great people? Like on day 1, you give them nothing, and on day 1 they make something happen, and then on day 2 they just sell, just like this dude, Ayrton? Or is that... something that people develop in real estate over 3-4 years and become great? Because I am now of the philosophy of great people, they don't need time. You actually see them make things happen on day 1.
100%, yeah. Like I've put on a new guy in my team, and to be honest with you, I actually wasn't really even... I've been sort of quietly looking for my next sales agent, but I don't care if it takes me 2 months, 6 months or a year. It's finding that right person with those special qualities.
Yeah.
And good mates of mine own the Boathouse Group. You know, the Boathouse restaurants on the waterfront. Really good, successful guys. They're mates of mine. And Benny calls me, he says, Piers, he says, my number 1 guy at the Boathouse, this guy runs my restaurants. He says, wherever he is, the profit goes up. We never get complaints. He has got the most amazing attitude. He says, I'm gutted to find out. He said, look, I'm getting out of hospitality and I'm going to real estate. So Ben says to him, he says, you can't go anywhere without talking to my mate Piers Van Hamburg. Rings me, he says, Piers, you got to meet this guy. So I met with Jeremy, this is probably 2 months ago now, and I saw exactly what Ben is talking about in this guy. He has got the attitude, the way he presents himself, like he's a really special person, and I offered him a job pretty much on the spot. So some people I can just see, you know, they've just got this drive to succeed. They've got amazing people skills. They've got all the right values. and they don't come along very often. So, yeah.
Okay. Here's my second question. What attracted you to leave the newspaper for real estate?
Yeah.
Like, is that money?
Probably was a little bit at the time. Yeah, I was 25, and I think at age 25, you're quite impressionable on material things. I saw that all the agents drove really nice cars in my area. I've always been a bit of a car man. I like my cars.
I thought they make more money in newspaper advertising back then.
Yeah, not now. Unfortunately, I'm so glad that I changed industry, actually, because that's obviously a dying industry now. But, yeah, look, I think it probably was. I also like the fact that I never want to have a job where you're actually stuck indoors looking at a computer screen for 12 hours a day. That to me would be depressing. I like to be out and about, meeting people, relationships. I really like people. And I know we spoke about this over lunch. Like, real estate's got nothing to do with houses. It is a people business. It's relationships and people. And that's the part of real estate that I love the most, is the relationships, nurturing those relationships. And nothing gives me more satisfaction than, the client that just comes back to you and you get to sell the house over and over again and you're uncontested. To me, that is the most satisfying thing of real estate.
Yeah, well, hence one of your philosophy is love your clients, look after them.
Yeah,
I get that, but I'm still not leaving this point, right? So you're a salesperson selling newspapers ads. I'm sure that you have repeat business constantly. So you could have sat there on the repeat business every week. Real estate agents would advertise, so you were doing fine anyway. What is that thing that makes you jump? And the reason I want to ask it is, I just want to know whether 26 or 27 years down the road, people have changed. Are people going to just jump and look for that thing that you looked for 27 years ago?
I mean, the industry's changed massively.
Yep.
Totally different. But I still think it's the same thing, that why would you get into real estate? I think that if it suits your personality and you love it, a lot of the reasons my success, I actually love the job. I have good days and bad days like everybody. Mm-hmm. But I love my job, and it's been a great fit to what I do. But I think it's one of those jobs that, there's no cap on what you can earn. If you want to go out and sell 100 properties a year, you can do it.
Yeah.
But if you want to sell 50 a year, you can do 50. It really depends on what you want to do and at what stage of life you're in. The sky's the limit, really. I think you are in control of your destiny. You really work for yourself. Yeah, you work with an agency, and but you're essentially working for yourself, and your motivation will drive your success.
Yeah,
only you can control that.
Okay. Now, I know you've been in Rain and Horn, and I know you've been McGrath.
It was Ray White as well. Yeah.
And now you DiJones.
Yeah. That's over 28 years, so I don't jump around that much. That's not 4 jobs in 2 years.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about what is it that drives you to make those kind of momental changes?
Yeah. I mean, if you go back to Rain and Horn, that was my first gig. I was there for 3 years. Gareth Axton's the guy that employed me back then, has since retired. It's really nice, 28 years old. He's still a good mate of mine. We still talk quite regularly, and I still call him a mentor. So that's nice. I left Rain and Horn at the time because our competitor Ray White was selling a lot more prestigious properties, more expensive in a higher market. They were the market leader at the time,
right? And
they kind of poached me. So I ended up going there for about 4 years, which was successful. But for me, probably the pivotal point where my career went to the next level. I'd been in the industry for about 7 years. I was working for Ray White, and I got contacted by McGrath to go and work for McGrath. At the time, I was probably 32, early 30s, 31, 32. I was going okay. Like I was doing well. I was writing about 350,000 GCI, which was reasonable back. What are we talking about?
2004.
Yeah. It's probably like writing 900 now, I'd imagine. Something like that. So, and McGrath approached me. Look, I always admired the organisation of this young, dynamic agency, which it was. And for me, I went there because they offered really, really good training. They had a young culture. They were making things happen. I loved the brand. And I made the decision at that point that I thought, it's interesting. I nearly got out of real estate.
Oh. I
didn't tell you this, actually. I nearly got out of real estate. And the reason was I got offered a job working in industrial sales for CBRE. And at the time, it was a big salary and working nine sort of Monday to Friday, and I get my weekends back. And I nearly took the job, but I ended up deciding not to go. And I thought, something, I'm actually going. I feel like I've invested so much time into residential real estate. I thought I'm going to give this a real go. So I went to McGrath and I said, look, I'm going to do everything they tell me to do. I'm going to follow their training. I'm going to spend a lot of time with their successful agents, learn from them. I pretty much followed exactly what they did. I invested a fair bit of money in marketing myself at the time, money I didn't have. And long and short of my first year at McGrath, I went from writing 350 to 700. I doubled my numbers in my first year at McGrath. So I think that was probably the biggest shift for me. And then I went on to write a mill the year after that. And then I never looked back after that. So it's sort of, and I look at, I think to go to the next level in your real estate career, at some stage you have to work incredibly hard and be incredibly committed and really, really go for it. Like it's easy now. I've got like a personal brand and a strong client base that I can dictate my hours more so and have a bit better life balance. But I work really, really hard in my early 30s. So
do you believe in the adage of don't work hard, work smart?
No, I think you have to do the work.
Yep.
Yeah. Certainly in your ramp up stage.
Okay, so
you have this
because these days you have a lot of these young kids. They talk about Instagram, TikTok, and all these things. If you dominate the social media, you probably will get it. You don't believe in that?
Social media is part of what I do. I'm always on Instagram and posting stuff like that. But I don't. I think it's good for top of mind awareness. But I've had a couple of listings and sales out of it. But no, you have to actually do the work.
Yeah,
you have to really, really get in and do the work. And I outworked my competition back then.
Yeah, I think it's very important for them to hear this because I think that you spoke a lot about having a lot of stress back in those younger days, having a lot of sleepless nights and sleepless night, even when you were running your show. Yeah. It's part of the deal.
Yeah, I remember. I was in 2007. Myself and Dean Mackey bought the Neutral Bay office off John McGrath. So it was a company-owned system. We bought a franchise off John. When we bought that office, it was losing $25,000 a month loss. So we had no choice but to grow that business. And I just, I had a newborn. So I had a newborn that was crying all through the night, so lack of sleep. I was working from, 7:30 in the morning till 8 o'clock, 6 days a week. And mate, I had my, what do you call it, on the line, and I remember waking up in the middle of the night, with my wife, literally in tears saying, what have I done? I was an agent who was making good money, had a comfortable life, and I've gone and thrown that all away to start an office that's losing a lot of money. And we, we didn't have the money. I didn't grow up with rich parents. We actually didn't have the money. So we were every month had to come in for quite a while just to make ends meet. But the lesson out of that, you don't ever get growth without risk and without sleepless nights and without actually putting yourself on the line.
Yeah, I like that.
So if you want to coast, you're just not going to go anywhere.
I like that.
So in hindsight, it's the best thing that I ever did because we turned that business around and we subsequently opened an office in Mossman, one in Chatswood, one in Northbridge, and we took it from a business that had 2% market share and we bought it, and at our peak we got it up to 25% market share.
Yeah.
And it was amazing rockstar business. So, I forget what the original question was now. We sort of
it's good.
Tangent, but yeah.
No, I listen. There's no direction. All I wanted to know is that stress and sleepless nights are the things you have to welcome if you want to take risk.
You do.
Yes, you do. So sometimes I tell people they don't believe me, but when they listen to someone like you, they probably say, oh, he says the same thing.
Yeah.
And I like it because in your philosophy, you also say we need to play the long game.
You do. 100%.
Right. Now, let's go through all of these things because I've done a bit of research about you. And there was one thing that hit me because what I love the most is when you look at people who do well, you find out and you realize, do you know what? They're normal people. But you also know they must be doing something special because you don't just get extraordinary performance by just doing nothing. And so I then thought, I'm going to have to ask him this. But from watching some of the videos you had, I thought to myself, this man must have had a health scare at some stage that changed his outlook on life.
Yeah, I did,
and provoke a paradigm shift. And I asked you during lunch, right? So would you like to share a little bit about this?
Yeah, I did. You know, like it's quite an emotional story, and it's about 7 years ago. This is about 7 years ago. I noticed with myself that I was starting to look different. My face got really, really puffy, and my wedding ring wouldn't fit on my finger anymore, and my shoes wouldn't fit either. So I was literally growing sideways. And my mother used to come over to visit me on a Sunday, as mums do, and she'd walk in the front door and she goes, "Piers, you look like shit." And I got to a point where actually I didn't want her to come over on Sundays because like, you know what? You're not making my Sunday, you know what I mean? So she used to come over and my health wasn't good either. Like I was getting like the flu 6-7 times a year. I was always sick. I was snoring. I was tired. I didn't feel myself. I felt like I felt like I'd aged like 20, 30 years. So I sort of knew something wasn't right. And, you know, one day I had to go down to Melbourne for the day because I went down and met with the guys from Marshall White down there.
Right.
Because we used to do a fair bit of like work with the Melbourne guys, you know. They're just learning off them and each other. Anyway, I went down to see Marshall White, and I remember I was coming back towards Tullamarine, and my mother rings me and she's crying, and she says, "Piers, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm in Melbourne, but I'll be home I land at 7 o'clock." She says, "Well, I'll be at your house at 7:30. I'm thinking, oh my God, like what's happened? My grandmother's died. Somebody's got cancer. Something bad's happened, you know, because when I just knew something's happened anyway. So I walk in the door and there's my mother and my father sitting on the couch and they're in tears. And they said, "Son, we've Googled all your symptoms of what's going on with you." And she says, "We've discovered through our Googling that you have a very, very rare deadly disease." And like I started laughing. I said, like, my mother has finally lost the plot. There's something wrong with you. Anyway, she goes, "No." She goes, "This, that, this, and she goes, "It's a disease called acromegaly." And I'm like, "I've never heard of acromegaly before." She says, "It's a 4 in 1 million disease." And I'm like, yeah, I still think she's crazy anyway. So she leaves the house and she says, "Piers, go and see the GP tomorrow." So I booked the GP at 3 p.m. the next day, as my mother told me to do. And I said to my PA, I said, "Look, my crazy mother thinks that I'm dying. Like, I'll be back in 20 minutes. Like, see you soon." Anyway, so I sit down in front of the GP and I said, "Look, Mr. GP, I've got all these symptoms, run through all these symptoms." And he goes, "Look," he said, "I've been a doctor for like 20 years. He says, I've only diagnosed this twice, but it sounds like you've got a very rare disease called acromegaly." And like, I'm like, "What?" Anyway, so he says, "You got to go for a blood test." I go for a blood test. It then comes back that I've got it, right? He then says, "I've got to send you for a brain scan." Anyway, so I go off the brain scan, come back home, and I still remember I was sitting in the front garden on the couch, and I get this call from the doctor, and he rings me and he says, "Look, this is bad news." He says, "You have got a tumour on your pituitary gland, which is next to your brain, and it's about the size of a golf ball." And I'm like, right, it's pretty sobering when you have, you know, great family and 3 kids and, you know, the perfect life, and you get told you got a golf ball in your head, you know. And I said, "Is it cancerous?" And he said, "Look, probably not." He says, "You won't really know until they operate," you know. And you know, and I think, so and when I saw it, he said, look, he says, look, you're going to have to go in for an operation. And so I go in for this 8-hour brain operation where modern technology, they go in through your nose with a robot and a camera, and over about 8 hours, they take it out. But the operation itself, anything to do with the brain is really risky. It doesn't take much to go wrong. So, again, when you go into an operation like that and, you say goodbye to your wife and your kids, not knowing whether you're going to come out all right. And I did. I came out of it. But I remember actually also when I got diagnosed, my boss at the time, John McGrath, he, to John's credit, he came around to my house and he tried to console me, obviously, like this is before I had the operation. And he said, Piers, he said, sometimes in life, gifts will come to you badly packaged. Gifts will come to you badly packaged. And what he meant by that is, he said, like, sometimes when you face your mortality in the eye, or you have a brush with death, or you have someone very close to you die, it actually makes you realise you're not here for, there's no guarantee you can live to 90. And it makes you realise, what made me realise through that whole exercise, because I had the operation, and I came out the back end of it, it was a success. They got rid of the tumour, it wasn't cancerous, and all of those health issues completely went away. And that was like 7 years ago, and I've never been healthier, But through that, I've learned that, one, to embrace every day with a positive attitude, two, not to sweat the small things. I don't worry about, I don't sweat the small things too much. I go on good holidays and I really look after my health. So it was a gift badly packaged because it changed my life on it. It really did, because I've never been healthier. I've never been happier. Like I see the green dot on my phone there. That green dot reminds me to be positive every day, and to always see the positive thing. It has changed my life in such a positive way, and thank goodness my health is amazing. But yeah, that's the background of it. So I guess how do you have that attitude without going through that something like that? I don't know, but for me, it really was.
Yeah,
so changed my life.
So some changes are instant. So did you change your business overnight? Did you then decide, hey, listen, I'm no longer going to be working late? I'm no longer...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. And I continue to. I mean, obviously I'm getting older as well. So I value time more than anything. So I still work hard, but nothing like what I used to. I just empower those around me more so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how about family values? I mean, I'm sure you had great family values beforehand.
Yeah.
But an experience like this, does it even change our family values? I mean, I'm just thinking family values. A lot of people say, I've got great family values, but they never home with their kids, right?
Yeah.
And they make excuses for themselves that it's about quality, not quantity.
Yeah.
And they justify all these things. But I just don't... I wonder whether we then sit down and realize, hold on, we've been lying to ourselves. We say certain things, but our actions don't really mean what we say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always conscious of spending. Like I make sure that I have really good holidays every year. A friend of mine who's 10 years older than me, he said to me, Piers, your kids always remember the holidays. So I really try and make sure that we have like regular breaks and good holidays and go to really good places and spend a lot of one-on-one time together.
Yeah.
I like to be there for my kids' sport as much as I can. I'm really close to my kids. I don't ever want them to think that I was the absent dad, and I know in my heart that I do a good job of that.
Yeah. Okay. So, in one of the videos, you were talking in 2022 in one of the breakfasts about having a team structure of 7. You have 7 people around you.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, are you already thinking about succession plan and creating a new business?
Yeah. I mean, that video was a couple of years ago. We were in a high volume market at the time, but I also realised that running a team of 7 is not for me. As much as a part of running a team is managing people, managing seven was taking me too much down the route of managing people. So I'm now a team of 4. So I have myself, and I have 2 agents and a client service, marketing, all that sort of stuff. So there's myself. So there's 4 of us. Yes, but succession, absolutely.
And you still manage to be number 35 on the top 100 agent in Australia. That's not possible. People look at that, they have to go, no, that he's lying. He's probably got a team of something like 80 or 100.
No. I mean, we are also quite blessed that we're in an area where the average sale value is quite high. So my average commission is usually around 50,000, which is...
Yeah, that's quite humble of you to say that.
Yeah. But we're lucky in that way, I think.
Do you still work really hard now?
I think I've got a nice balance between my work and all my other interests at the moment. Okay. And I probably work harder at different parts of the year. So, for example, I had 6 weeks off over the Christmas break, and I've got I'll have Easter off. I'm in 1st to the 9th of May. I'm paddling Ningaloo Reef, which is the reef off Western Australia. So I'm on a paddling trip with some mates in May. And then in July school holidays, I'm taking the family to Japan for 10 days. So I find that if I've got things to look forward to, then I don't mind working hard in those in-between times. So, I still work. I work at a level that I'm comfortable with at the moment.
You found a balance. This is why talking to you, I love that, because when you talk to top performers, you can see some of them are just like batteries. Yeah. And you're going, like every batteries, at some stage you got to go off. Yeah. And unfortunately, sometimes it's like those electric batteries, they go off without you knowing. Yeah. Yeah. But you seem to be like someone who's got such a kind of, balance about, I'm happy with what I have. I'm doing this. I mean, even during lunch when you said, I'm just contemplating, maybe I'm selling my scooter, I don't know, maybe I want it. I said, don't you do this. This is part of your history. Yeah. Don't do this. But a lot of people don't understand it. So what would you advise now someone who's thinking about starting their show today? Yeah. What should they do, and what would be the pitfalls they should avoid? Yeah. I mean, I think, and this is a really sad thing to say, that in the last 12 months, I've had 3 agents that I've worked pretty closely to pass away in the last 12 months. You got to look after yourself. You have to nurture yourself. You have to look after your health is a really big thing. I've been really lucky to find, about 4 years ago, I found my kayaking or my surf ski. Yep. That's been a game changer for me. So 4 days a week I'm out on Sydney Harbour, paddling for an hour, catching waves, and it's my time. And I think it's really important if you can find something that you love to do and have that time. Now, it doesn't have to be that. It could be anything from meditation to whatever makes your heart sing. So, yes. I think that's a really important thing. You've got to keep yourself healthy. I think the other thing is you can make a lot of money being a real estate agent, but my observation is a lot of agents will spend just as much as what they earn. So you could be earning $500,000 a year, and you could blow $500,000 on material things and restaurants and watches and cars and all those things that we all love. But I have, since I was 22, I bought a 1-bedroom unit when I was 22, and I have bought and sold 34 times since then. So I've always traded up the house, bought this, sold that, bought this. I mean, my poor wife, we've been married for 19 years. We've lived in 7 houses. But I've always had the attitude that if the right money's on the table, I'll sell it, So we've sort of I've probably made as much money buying and selling real estate as I have as my job. Yes. So I think that you need to be clever with what you do with your money, and how you invest it is an important thing. Yeah, that's smart. Yeah. Because a lot of people open a show and they think about it's all glamour, it's all about reinvesting everything you have, but it's really about being smart with your money as well, isn't it? I think so. So I really like what you have. So far, whatever you have as a hobby, you need to still have it. You do, yeah. Whether you run a business and whether you're going to be busy building that business, you must keep that side alive. Well, I think you need to find an outlet, something that you love, because, But when you say that, I mean, really, do young people believe you when you say, mate, you have to keep on playing sports on the weekend, that sport that you like, and then on the other hand, they're working for you, and you go, mate, I need your results. I haven't always, I said to you over lunch, I've discovered the kayaking in the last 4 years. There was a period of time I actually didn't have any hobbies, or I just simply didn't have time
for that, and that made me feel like I felt like something was missing. And I had somebody ask me probably about 8 years ago. They said, "Oh, yeah, what are you into? What do you do when you're not selling real estate?" And I struggled to answer it. So I went back and I thought, well, I was a good tennis player when I was a kid. Maybe I'd get back into tennis. So I joined a tennis club and I found myself, I dragged myself to tennis, but it was a chore. So I fell into the kayaking and found something which I truly, truly love and look forward to doing that, So I think that if there's something that you really, really love, do it. Because they're the things that make you happy, really, at the end of the day, but you just got to find it.
I mean, after 27 years in real estate, do you think that everyone can do real estate? Or
No.
No. Okay.
No, I don't actually. I think that some people are built for it and some people aren't built for it.
Okay. So what does it take to be in real estate?
A very strong motor. Yeah, I think you have to have strong internal fortitude. Some people can't deal with the rejection or the wins and the losses. You lose this, and I often say that, like, to be a good agent, you have to literally be prepared to drive down the street and see one of your mates' houses with with an opposition's board out the front, and then be able to deal with that. It's quite hard. Some people can't deal with it.
So how do you deal with that? You break the sign down? I mean,
Yeah. No, look, I think you can't hold on to it for too long, because the problem is if it ruins your day for 3 days, then that's like 3 days of productivity you're going to lose. So you have to actually be able to be upset for about 10 minutes and go, like, on to the next one. Get back on the phones. Start making prospecting calls.
Okay, so rejection, is that the only one?
Yeah, rejection.
Yeah.
I think you also have to be able to deal with times when, I've had years when I've made a lot of money, and then I've had other years where my tax bill is bigger than the money that I'm making. So it's fluctuating income depending on what's happening with that. Again, it doesn't suit everybody.
Yeah.
You've got to have really good work ethic.
So what is a work ethic?
Not afraid of hard work. I think somebody that gets in there and does the work.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean long hours necessarily.
No, but I still prospect today. Like, I still see prospecting as the most.
No, come on.
I do. I jump on the phones and I don't, like, do I go ringing cold people? No, I don't.
Okay.
My team do that.
You got the database.
But I still ring through, like, Mrs. Jones, I sold a house 5 years ago. I check in. Hi, Mrs. Jones, Piers calling, just checking in, You got any plan? I've been making calls basically from the beginning of January through to now. Hi, Mr. Jones, just checking in if you've got any plans for 2024. No, Piers, but you'll be the first to know. Okay, cool, no worries, bang, So I still do that because most of my business is really repeat and referral. And I think that's why I said to you, you've got to have a long term. If you want to be good in real estate for a long period of time, you have to nurture and look after people and have those relationships, because they'll come back and use you again sometimes.
Okay, be very careful about how you answer this next one, because I don't want any competitor using it against you. But what's the next 5 years in Piers' life? Next 5 years of business, I meant.
Yeah, I mean, look, the next 5 years, I want to keep doing what I'm doing, but on my terms. And I want to... I want to elevate my team and work on my succession, and I want them. I want to make my team successful. That's the main thing. I don't have like a goal. I mean, I'm 52 now. I don't have a goal to retire, because I don't. I actually do like work, but I just want to do work on my terms, so I can go on nice holidays. I can work with people that I want to work with.
Yeah.
I've been saying no to a lot more business lately. If I don't like the person, I think, well, why would I put up with you for 5 weeks? I know that sounds a bit arrogant, but, like, I couldn't do that for a long time. But now I'm like, well, I don't know. I just want to work with nice people that respect my advice. And then the thing is, you get in your groove, and then you meet yourself for a nice person, and then you get referred to their nice people friends. So, yeah, not all business is good business.
There's a very good line that you said in one of your videos. High ambitious people, but don't hold them back. What do you mean by don't hold them back?
Well, I think that, I've hired a lot of people over the years, and you've either got the choice of hiring unambitious people that won't you won't get anything out of them. Like, in fact, you'll probably want to get rid of them. Or if you want the greats, they're always going to be ambitious. So you've got to always be looking at what's their next step of, where are they going and where they want to be. So I'm quite happy to, like young Jeremy, who's just joined me.
Yes.
The quicker I can get him into being a productive, like successful real estate agent, the better. Whereas sometimes I find agents, they'll get an assistant and they'll hold them there for too long, probably for their own self-interest, like because they don't want to progress them. You've got to progress people as quickly as possible. The only thing is, you hire really ambitious people, and often
they walk.
They walk, yeah.
And what? I mean, every single time that happens to me, especially if I do like the person, it's like I feel like they rip my heart out.
You do. Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard thing to deal with, but most of my competitors, not most of them, but probably half of our competitors have worked with us at some point. But ambitious people, they only want what I wanted when I wanted to open my own agency as well. So you can't really, as much as it doesn't suit me at the time, you can't not blame them for do that. In some ways, I feel quite proud that we have actually had a part of their career and got them, and helped them on their journey.
Yeah. That's nice.
But I still don't like them taking my listings off me.
In the 27 years you've been in employing people, do you find that people have changed? Human nature has changed? Are people more loyal, less loyal? Are people more ambitious, less ambitious these days?
I think the consumer is less loyal. I hate to say that, but I really do.
Right.
I think it's more about the money a little bit more these days. I don't know. I just do.
What about the staff?
I think it depends on the staff member.
Okay, so human nature hasn't changed then?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
Right.
No.
Well,
but I do think that most people won't leave. They're not usually leaving over money. It's usually other reasons.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Right. Well, listen, I got to ask you what I thought, was very nice of you. And I think that we found a bit of your secret. And I think people need to really pay attention to how life unfolds, because sometimes some of those bad moments, some of those tough moments, they actually shift us totally.
They shape you on who you are. They really do.
But I'm going to ask you one final question before I let you go. How do you know you're leading a good life, Piers?
And I always think about, if I got, like, this sounds a bit morbid, but if I ended my life tomorrow and something happened to me, if I look back on my last 52 years, has it been amazing? Yeah, it has. Like, I've really played full out. I really have. I've done everything that I've wanted to do up until now. I really have. I've had a beautiful family. I've got a lovely wife. I've had an amazing career. I've travelled the world. I've got good friends, good family. I've had good health other than that incident. I couldn't ask for more. We live in the greatest country in the world. Like, I'm really, really grateful for my life, and I really hope that things don't change. So I really do. And yes, there's been, I could tell you so many challenging times, and I have challenges. We've had all sorts of issues. Life has speed bumps, but it's how you deal with them, and it's your attitude to dealing with them. So, I think the ultimate thing is, are you happy? Mm-hmm. And if you're happy and you're enjoying your life, then isn't that what we all want?
That's a good answer. I like the answer.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today, Piers.
My pleasure.
And really nice meeting you. You're a good person. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity.